Hi guys, welcome back aboard our 44-foot hurricane damaged DIY catamaran project boat. In this video we're going to be making molds for some fiberglass hatches using this 3D scanner. This is the Einstar Vega. When we purchased this big hunk of fiberglass, one of the very first projects I worked on was this. This is our lovingly nicknamed tramp ramp. When the boat was partially sunk by Hurricane Dorian in 2019, the tramp ramp sustained a lot of damage. Over the course of a couple of weeks, I got it cleaned up and reinforced to make it as strong or even stronger than new. Because of the damage and the repairs, it needed quite a bit of fairing compound to bring it back to its former glory, but eventually it was ready for both primer and then finally paint. The tramp ramp now looks brand new, but there is still the small matter of the hatches. They are heavily damaged and I would like to make new ones. I love building things and I love learning new skills, and one of the things I want to do more of during this refit is CAD, computer-aided design. This is something I've always wanted to do but never found the time to do. And also as a part of this, I've always wanted a 3D scanner. So I finally reached out to Shining 3D to see if they wanted to send me one of their awesome Einstar 3D scanners in exchange for having it featured in a video. They said they would love to, but they were just about to launch a new product and they thought I would really like it. The product hadn't been announced yet, so they couldn't give me any specs or details. This will be important a little bit later on. So super eager and super excited, I sprang into action. Let's check in with past mats about 3 months ago. As of recording this, Shining 3D does offer a Mac or OS X version of their scanner software, but it is in beta and I have no idea when it's going to be out of beta, so I figured I'd be better off putting together a Windows PC. The hardware requirements for this scanning software are actually very reasonable. The only thing is it requires you to have an NVIDIA GPU. I think the recommended one is a 1050, something like that, so this 4060 should do a great job. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited about putting this PC together, because computers used to be a huge part of my life as a bit of a geek and also as a software developer for about 20 years. This computer will be based around AMD's AM5 platform. This should give me excellent bang for the buck, and with 32 gigabytes of RAM and a 1 terabyte SSD, this should be an awesome machine for CAD and 3D scanning. With the 4060 GPU in this computer, I should also be able to do a little bit of gaming. Now, I was never a huge gamer, but I think gaming might be a good way to keep in contact with some of my old friends back in Denmark. Now, let's get started with the assembly, and I'm gonna try something new during this assembly. I'll be live streaming it on our Patreon Discord server, just to maybe to see if there's somebody that wants to hang out and chat for a little bit. It was just as much fun as in the good old days back in Denmark as a bespectacled teenage geek to put together the PC. Everything went together smoothly, and in no time I was ready to install Windows 11. When I reached out to Shining 3D and asked for a 3D scanner, the one I was asking for was the one that's called Einstar. It's their previous model. The reason I asked for that one is because it was one of the best reviewed prosumer 3D scanners here on YouTube. It's reasonably priced, but still got really good reviews. The thing is, their new product, the Einstar Vega, doesn't need to be connected to a PC. That's okay though, because it actually turns out I needed the Windows PC anyways, not for the 3D scanner, but for Fusion 360. The hatches are pretty big, and when I try and import the 3D scan of those hatches into Fusion 360 on my Mac, it just hangs and nothing happens. So I'm glad I built the PC. Let's head back to Athena. I can show you how the scanner works, and we can get the data into Fusion 360 and start doing some CAD. These are the two hatches in question. They both have a lot of floppiness to them, so I think there's some delamination going on, and they also both have a lot of cosmetic damage. So I think new hatches is the way to go. Fortunately for me, they appear to be a mirror image. That means I only need to model one of them in Fusion 360, and then I can get the 2 molds I need. Let's take a quick peek at the star of the show, the Einstar Vega 3D scanner. Like I said, this does not need to be connected to a computer to work. Everything is inside of this little doohickey. The Vega has two different modes. It's got HD mode and fast mode. HD mode is meant for small to medium-sized objects, and fast mode is meant for bigger objects. Interestingly, I've never seen the little recalibrate logo up there before, so maybe we should do that first. Calibrating the scanner is super easy. It comes with this funky looking calibration plate and this holder doodad. You need both of those things to do the calibration. Even though I've never seen the little recalibrate icon up there, I have done the calibration. I did that as soon as I got the device just to make sure that everything was good. It's super easy. It only takes a few minutes. The calibration process feels almost like a game. You hold the scanner over the plate and move it up and down to close some blue rings. For the fast scan part of the calibration, either having long arms or maybe a lower table will be helpful. I've only had the Vega for a short period of time, so I'm not an expert, not yet. But what I thought was cool was that I was able to pick up the Vega, play around with it a little bit, and then get a successful scan of the hatch. So the learning curve with the Vega is very flat. It's super easy to pick up and get started. It comes with these little reflective stickers that you can stick onto the surface of things. There are two sizes. There's a 3mm one and a 6mm one. The 3mm one is for the HD mode and the 6mm one is for the fast mode. The dots are only ever needed if you're working with something that doesn't have a lot of unique shapes to it, if that makes sense. It's to help the scanner keep its tracking as you're moving it around. As you might have seen in a previous video from a few weeks ago, I scanned one of the hatches under the boat using the HD mode, but I'm curious to compare that experience to scanning the other hatch in fast mode. As you can see, I absolutely peppered the surface of the first hatch here with the little 3mm dots. Because the fast mode has a much wider field of view, I'm not sure we'll actually need the little 6mm tracking dots for this thing, but another way to go is just to take some random stuff and put either behind or on top of the object you're trying to scan, just so that it gets some kind of geometry so that the scanner can easier keep its tracking. I can put all this stuff here on top of the hatch because I don't care about this big flat surface. For modeling this in Fusion, all I care about is the overall shape, size, the radius of, for instance, this corner here, something like this little recessed area for the hinge, but the big flat surface, that's not important. As you might be able to see right now, I'm picking up all kinds of stuff like the floor down there, the table, the hatches up there. But there's a useful little feature here we can use to limit what we're looking at. As you can see, we've got the hatch over there. You can see the little recessed area for the hinge. Down here is the table, but the table doesn't really matter. We can easily remove that afterwards. So let's start our scan. Scanning with fast mode without the tracking dots, I did lose tracking a couple of times, but it was still much faster than scanning in HD mode. There's a pause feature that allows you to stop your scan in case you're shooting a YouTube video and needs to move your camera, or if you just want to take a look at the data you've captured so far. So like for instance, you can see the edge back here. We got that pretty well, it seems like, but over on the back of it, where we haven't been yet, look, it's all just cut off right there. So let's see if we can get that edge. Whenever you resume a scan, the scanner automatically tries to align itself with the data it's already captured, which it does really well. And it's to be honest, it's kind of like magic. I think we have at least a partially usable scan here. It looks like it's duplicated a couple of my pens up here, so my idea of using the pens might not have been the best. Let's throw on some tracking dots and see if that does a better job. Before we go ahead and save this, let's just get rid of the table down here because we don't need that for anything, so we might as well get rid of that right now. While we're waiting for the Vega to generate the mesh, let's go ahead and place the tracking dots. I think the recommendation is to have a minimum of 4 in view at any point in time, but because of fast mode's wide field of view, I don't think we'll need that many. If I was to wager a guess here, I would say this is probably too many, but let's give it a go. Before I go ahead and scan the hatch again with the marker dots in place, there's a little setting here we need to change. I think, yeah, marker alignment. Let's see if this will work better. Remember how the recommendation was to have at least 4 markers in view at any one point in time? Well, right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So yeah, I could have gone a lot lighter on the markers. Oh, this is so much better than just using the pens on top. The markers make a huge difference. I can move the scanner a lot faster and it is not losing tracking at all. This is so much better. I would go as far as to say that having the markers in place is a night and day difference compared to my somewhat hacky pen solution with the... Yeah, this is really nice. Just by looking at this, I can tell that it's going to be a better scan than the first one. I've connected the Vega to my computer and I've opened up the StarVision software. That's the Vega specific software that I'll use to import the data from the Vega to the computer. Here you can see some of the fun things I've scanned, like for instance this little penguin guy here that came with the scanner. This is our latest hatch scan. Let's go ahead and import that, and also the one I did in HD mode. Here we have both of the point clouds that were generated by the Vega. We've got the fast scan version here, and then we've got the HD scan version here. There are some settings here that we can change before generating a mesh from the point cloud. There's resolution and mesh smoothing. As a super quick, very unscientific comparison here, if we zoom in, this is the HD scan version. You can see the area around the hole here is very nice and smooth. Also this recessed area for the hinge. If we switch to the fast scan, it's a little bit more jagged, this hole here and also the recessed area. But I think we can use either one of these scans for Fusion 360 to model the hatches. To get our data out of StarVision and into Fusion 360, we can do a quick little export here to, for instance, OBJ. Here is the imported data into Fusion 360. As you can see, looks beautiful. We can then use that to make the hatch in Fusion 360, which is what I've done here. And as you can see, I've kind of guesstimated as to the recessed areas and the holes and stuff. This will need a little bit of fine-tuning, but this gets us incredibly close. We can then use the modeled hatch in Fusion 360 to make the mold, which is the cool thing and really the objective of this. And if we flip this guy around, ta-da! I don't know if it looks like it on camera, but this is a mold for a new hatch. That's pretty cool. As a quick little sanity check, I printed out small sections of the model on my 3D printer to compare them to the real hatches. The corners looked absolutely spot on in terms of radius. One is 52 millimeters and the other one is 47 millimeters. The overall length was within 1 millimeter. The radius on the outside edge was spot on with 7 millimeters, and the recessed area for the hinges looked to be within 1 millimeter of the original ones. The next morning I headed to the catamaran to prep some MDF for the molds. I couldn't get MDF that was thick enough for the female molds, so I busted out the TotalBoat epoxy and glued together 2 pieces of 3/4 inch MDF. I don't yet have a CNC machine, but I know some nice people that do. This hyper awesome $60,000 version is owned by Josh and Crystal. They were kind enough to not only let me use their machine, but also do the translation of my Fusion files into essentially G-code. This is something I will definitely have to study up on once I become the lucky owner of a CNC machine. I am sure whatever machine I end up with, it's not going to be as fancy as this monster 10 by 5 foot one with automatic tool changer. This is a Ferrari. I'm more in the 2001 Honda CR-V category. With impressive speed, we transformed copious amounts of MDF into a glorious man glitter to finally reveal 2 exact replicas of what the hatches will look like once I pull them out of the molds. We did this to be able to offer them up to the original hatches and compare to make any last minute changes. I think the only change we made was to move the hinge pockets about a millimeter. What followed was the most delightful generation of man glitter I have ever been a part of. I've always wanted a CNC machine, and given the fact that the entire interior of the Antares is CNC cut and that I should be able to get my hands on those files, getting a cheaper hobby-grade CNC makes a lot of sense. The next morning I swung by the catamaran and double-checked that our test hatches are a good fit, which they very much appear to be. This has been such a cool adventure, and I am so excited to have the raw plywood molds here in front of me. These are ready to get coated with epoxy, and I've ordered most of the consumables and other doohickeys I need to be able to vacuum infuse new hatches in the next few weeks. I learned a bunch of things during this little project here. One of the kind of mind-boggling ones was the fact that on Josh and Crystal's CNC machine they had a vacuum table on there, which was super spiffy. But the way that worked was there was a spoil board made out of MDF, and the parts that went on top of that spoil board, they got held down by vacuum through that MDF spoil board, but there were no holes. It was just pulling a vacuum straight through the MDF. So I'll definitely have to take great care to get this thoroughly sealed before I attempt any kind of vacuum infusion. I'm very much looking forward to using the Vega in upcoming projects. I'm more interested in the practical projects, like for instance making custom alternator mounts. I think that would be cool, and it would be a very similar project to the hatches in the sense that I would grab a 3D scan, import that into CAD, and then work off of that. But there are so many other cool types of projects you can do that aren't as engineering related. Like for instance, the little penguin guy here. I briefly showed you a scan of this guy on the computer, and I took that scan without doing any kind of post-processing or anything and printed that on my 3D printer. And this is the result. And as you can see, they are very much identical. I also used the 3D scanner for another fun project that doesn't really fit into the engineering category. Say you have a partner that's particularly fond of a certain body part of yours, and no. I'm talking about my ear, right? So Ava is really fond of my ears, and I used the 3D scanner to scan my ears, and then I took that scan and made it into a pendant about this size, and then I'm having a jewelry store in Michigan where Ava actually used to work cast that in sterling silver. That way, no matter if we are apart or together, she can always yell at me. There are so many cool things you can do with the Einstar Vega, and I feel like the price point, the quality of the scans, and the ease of use is definitely at a point where it makes a lot of sense for a lot of hobbies or maybe even some slight commercial activities just to get one of these. And yeah, this is a cool doohickey. The people at Shining 3D, the manufacturer of the Einstar Vega, have been an absolute joy to work with. Thank you so much to Leo for reaching out a bunch of times and asking if I had any kind of questions or if I'd experienced any issues. And while I'm not a 3D scanner expert yet, I do have a nose for a good, trustworthy company, and Shining 3D definitely strikes me as that. Now, while I've had the Vega, a couple of major software updates have come out, and they've launched a bunch of new features. Like, for instance, now you can get the 3mm tracking dots, the 6mm tracking dots, and then the new thing are 12mm tracking dots, specifically for the fast scanning mode. As I mentioned earlier in the video, the reason I reached out to Shining 3D specifically was because of the reputation of their Einstar scanner. And with the Einstar Vega, well, I think they are right on track to keeping that good reputation. So a great big thank you to Shining 3D for taking a chance on a 3D scanning noob like myself. I'm super excited to use the 3D scanner for a bunch of upcoming projects aboard the catamaran, and I'm excited to take you guys along on that journey. Before ending this video, I want to take a quick second and just wish everybody out there a happy new year. I hope your 2025 gets filled with copious amounts of glorious sanding. And that is going to be the end of this week's video. Next week, I think we might do one of those year in review videos if I can finish it on time. Everything is a little bit rushed with the holidays and so on. But yeah, that is it for this week's video. As always, feel free to leave a comment down below. And don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video, please remember to leave a like. See you!